Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Tone 25 here on YouTube.com. This is the 2014 NFL Week 7 prediction show, along with our rankings. I am your host, Ridiculously Over Anthony Florio, flying solo here this evening. We're going to do a Strictly Sports NFL Saturday show tonight, but, work commitments and other plans got in the way of that, so there will be no formal show. However, I always want to make sure that you wonderful fans out there don't get cheated. Want to make sure you all get your money's worth, and that's exactly what you're going to get here tonight. My colleague Derek Ferreira already did a podcast of his own, so you can check that out. It's on the Strictly Sports Twitter page for those of you who want to check that out. It's also on the WordPress blog as well. Um, Michael Fletcher not on because of work commitments as usual, and Michael Bullock had some plans of his own on this Saturday and was very busy and decided that he really didn't really feel like doing the show tonight. And that's fine. I mean, you're entitled to a night off, so you just wanted to take the night off, and I can certainly understand that. And like I said, Derek Ferrer already did his video, and he had plans of his own. So I'm going to do a video of my own as well, and that's exactly what we're going to do here and now. We're going to get into the games of Week 7, and I will also have my power rankings as well, and we'll just take it from there. So first game on the docket, let's get into it. It is the huge game in the AFC East. Winner gets sole possession of first. It's going to be the New England Patriots going up against the Buffalo Bills. Very interesting that this game's going to be on the Fox network and not on CBS. This is an AFC game, but it's going to be on Fox because of this brand new cross-flex thing that they're doing, this cross-flexible thing they're doing. To be quite honest, I really don't like it because I'm a purist, and I really thought that this game should have been on CBS, but it is what it is. But anyways, it's going to be on Fox, and let's just get into it. New England's a 2 to 3 point favorite, and they lead the series 65-41 with a tie. They've won the last 5 meetings in a row, and honestly, I really don't see how Buffalo can win this. I mean, yeah, the defense is great. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. The defense is wonderful. And I got a slight correction: a 2.5 to 3 point favorite for New England in this game, and I'm really hoping Buffalo can win. But let's face it, New England has owned Buffalo, and Buffalo coming off that big win in Detroit against the Lions on last Sunday. First time they did that since 1979 at the old Pontiac Silverdome. And as great as that win was, I mean, hey, they had Kyle Orton. Kyle Orton outplayed Matthew Stafford. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's really true. So, but I just got to go New England. I mean, especially after what they did to the Cincinnati Bengals last Sunday night. A lot of Jersey Shore Kardashian like drama going on with them, and there was some report that Tom Brady was not happy with the coaching staff and had a big falling out with them. But oh no, he showed up, and boy, how did they show up? To a 43-17 beatdown of the Bengals, made them look like the Bungles, and it's because of that Cincinnati's going to be taking a major hit in the power rankings, and New England will be in them. And I might even have some room for Buffalo as well. So with that, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots in this game. I'm going to say final score is going to be, I'm going to go 24-21. The New England Patriots go into Buffalo, take care of the Bills like they always do. I'm sure Buffalo will keep it close, but there's something about New England, really. I mean, like I said, they've won 5 in a row, and they've just always owned the Buffalo Bills. And Tom Brady has owned the Buffalo Bills, like 22-2 in his career against them all time. Yeah, give me the New England Patriots in this one, 24-21. Should be a great game on Fox. And still don't like that it's on Fox, but it is what it is. So with that said, let's move on to our next game. It's going to be bear with me for one moment. The Carolina Panthers going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Another Fox game, obviously. So Bengals are 6.5 to 7 point favorites in this one. Rightly so. I mean, they are the better team. So, not care ourselves. I mean, Carolina, of course, coming off a big win against the Chicago Bears last Sunday. They won that game 31-24, and series history was 2-2. Um, Carolina won the first two meetings, but Cincinnati's won the last two. Last time they met was in 2010. That was in Carolina. Cincinnati won that 20-7. Last time they met in Cincinnati was in 2006. Cincinnati won that game 17-14. That's the only other time they've met in Cincinnati. All the other meetings were in Carolina. So, I mean, a little bit of a tough one to call, to be honest, considering that Carolina beat Chicago and Cincinnati, had that horrific performance against New England last Sunday night on the primetime stage. But this is not on the primetime stage. This is in their house. I mean, I can't remember the last time they lost a home game. It's been a while. I mean, regular season wise, they lost that playoff game in San Diego, the wild card game. So, considering that Cincinnati's a lengthy favorite, a 6.5 to 7 point favorite here, I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game. I mean, I think Andy Dalton's going to bounce back. I mean, I know there's going to be no AJ Green, but I think this is a great chance for Mohamed Sanu to step up in the receiver role, maybe get some Jermaine Gresham, tight end out of Oklahoma, running game with Bernard, and I think the defense will get to Cam Newton and company. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati to win this game. I'll go 31-24. That's going to be the final for me. Cincinnati gets back on track. So that's that. So let's move on to the next game. It's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Cleveland Browns. This is a CBS game, obviously. Spread actually favors Cleveland by 1, and there's another spread that has them as a pick 'em. So a lot of history here. Of course, they met earlier this season. They met on opening day, and the Pittsburgh Steelers won that game by a 31-28 final. Added to the previous history, it's now 66-57 in the regular season for Pittsburgh. They've won 4 meetings in a row. But Cleveland did win against Pittsburgh at home just 2 years ago, so there is a chance. I mean, Pittsburgh, a couple weeks ago had an embarrassing loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Cleveland Browns, of course, had that big comeback, that unbelievable comeback against the Tennessee Titans. They were down 25 and managed to win 29-28 in Nashville, so that was big. I did also forget to mention that Pittsburgh, went on to defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars, but it should have been more convincing. They only won 17-9, and that's why they're only an honorable mention when it comes to the power rankings. I can't quite, in good conscience, put them in. But this is definitely a tough one to call. I mean, I want to say Pittsburgh, I really do, because Ben Roethlisberger, in the running game with Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount, and that receiving core with Antonio Brown leading the way, and that defense, which recently got James Harrison back, but James Harrison came out of retirement to sign with him because of an injury. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland won, but to me, there's just something about Pittsburgh, and I got to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one. I think it will be a close game. I really do. 27-24. I will go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Cleveland Browns. I just think Roethlisberger will outplay Brian Hoyer, and I think the defense will make one big stop at the end. Expect some big games from Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount and Antonio Brown as well. Maybe Brian Hoyer will have a good game. Maybe Ben Tate will have a good game as well. Travis Benjamin, I can see him doing some things as well. So, but to me, I just think Pittsburgh. I just think Pittsburgh's the better team on this one. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh 27-24. That's going to be the final here. So moving on to our next game, it's going to be the Green Bay Packers going up against the Miami Dolphins. Fox game here. 2.5 to 3.5 point favorites are the Green Bay Packers. Of course, we all know what Green Bay did. Last time they played, it was on a Thursday night. They just absolutely holiday hammed the Minnesota Vikings. And Green Bay definitely moving on up in the power rankings, to say the very least. I mean, especially after how they flexed their muscle there. And Miami, of course, last time we saw them, they holiday hand the Oakland Raiders in Wembley Stadium in London a couple weeks ago. They were on a bye last week. Miami's another honorable mention, but if Miami wins this game and finds a way to beat Green Bay, Miami will definitely be in the power rankings next week. No question about that. Looking at the series history, Miami leads the all-time series, 10-3. Last time they met was in 2010. That was in Green Bay. Miami won that 23-20 in overtime. And last time they met in Miami was in 2006. Green Bay won that game 34-24. Last time the Dolphins won at home against Green Bay was in the year 2000, a 28-20 win. So it's a 2.5 to 3.5 point spread. I mean, I know Miami will hang with them. They'll give them some fits probably. I can see Ryan Tannehill having a solid game. The running game with Daniel Thomas there, I think he'll have a good game as well. Maybe we'll get some Mike Wallace in there. And the defense with Cameron Wake, I can see them getting to Aaron Rodgers a little bit. But to me, I got to go with Green Bay. I mean, I just like Aaron Rodgers way too much. I think he's going to have a big game. I think Randall Cobb as well, Jordy Nelson. Maybe we'll get some Eddie Lacy in there as well. The defense, I think they'll get to Tannehill as well. I think both defenses will play solidly, but I just think Green Bay is just too good right now. So I got to go with the Green Bay Packers in this one. I think it will be close. I definitely think it will be a close game. I'm going to go, let's see. I'm definitely going with Green Bay. I'm just trying to think of a good final score here. I'll go 28-21. Yeah, I think that's about right. 28-21. Green Bay will beat Miami at Sun Life Stadium in Miami. Should be a very good game, though, to say the very least. And so that's all I can say about that. So give me Green Bay in that one, 28-21. Okay, moving on to our next matchup. It's going to be the Detroit Lions going up against the Minnesota Vikings on the Fox game. Minnesota 2 to 2.5 point favorites. I don't know. I don't understand why, but they are. I think they already met this season. I'm not quite sure if that's the case. I'm just gonna quickly check this just to make sure. Actually, no, they haven't. It's the first meeting. The next meeting's in December. So, first meeting of the year between these two. I do believe Minnesota leads the all-time series. Yes, they do. They lead it big time, 69-34 with 2 ties. They split last year. Both teams winning at their respective home fields. Detroit winning at Ford Field and Minnesota winning in the Metrodome. But this time around, it's not at the Metrodome. It's at the TCF Bank Stadium on the campus of the University of Minnesota, which is where they're going to be the next couple of years before their new stadium's ready. So really don't understand why Minnesota's the favorite here. I think Detroit's the better team, even though Detroit, had that very bad loss to my Buffalo Bills last week. Very tough loss, to say the very least, for them. Game they had well in hand early, and then they just gagged it away. And Minnesota, of course, that meh performance against Green Bay on that Thursday night game at Lambeau. I mean, I know they're going to have Teddy Bridgewater back. I can understand that's probably why they're going with Minnesota in the spreads, but to me, I can't. I just think Detroit's too better. I just think Matthew Stafford, I think he's going to bounce back. I know Calvin Johnson's hurt. I can understand that. I could definitely see Golden Tate, formerly in Notre Dame. I can see him stepping up and having a big game. I really do. Maybe we'll get some Reggie Bush and Joey Bell in there. They're 1-2 tandem at the running back, and the defense with Sue and Fairley. And so I'm going to take a chance here, and I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions to win this game. Final score, I will go 31-21 Detroit to beat Minnesota at the TCF Bank Stadium on the campus of the University of Minnesota. So just too invested in Detroit right now. So I'll say Detroit wins that one. I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota wins, though. I'll be honest. So, but I do like Detroit 31-21. to 21. All right, next game is going to be the Denver Broncos going up against the New York Jets. 9 to 10 point favorites are the Denver Broncos in this game, and rightly so. I mean, and I'm gonna be real honest with you folks. This to me, because Denver's the heaviest favorite of the week, looking at all my spreads here, I got to consider this my lock of the week. I really do. Denver, last time we saw them, absolutely holiday ham the Arizona Cardinals. Won that game 41-20. In that game, Peyton Manning threw his 500 career touchdown pass. But then again, he also threw 501, 502, and 503. By the end of the year, he's going to surpass Brett Favre as the all-time leader in touchdown passes. And it will also be a matter of time before he surpasses Brett Favre in all-time yardage. I mean, when all is said and done, Peyton Manning's going to go down as most likely the greatest quarterback of all time. No question about that, based on his body of work. And, of course, that record-setting season of a year ago. And he's definitely on track to have another big year. No question about that. We saw that last week. 479 yards, 4 TDs, and 2 picks against Arizona in a 41-20 beatdown. As for the Jets, well, yeah. They got their asses handed to them by the San Diego Chargers, 31-0. I mean, absolutely horrific. Geno Smith, Michael Vick, awful. That's all I can say about that. Denver leads the all-time series between these two, 17-15 with a tie. Last meeting was in 2011. Denver won that game 17-13. Last time they played in New York, it was in 2008. Denver won that game 34-17. Last time the Jets beat the Broncos at home was in 2002. That was a 19-13 win. And you really think the Jets are going to beat Denver? No, absolutely not. Denver's going to win this one. They're going to win this one going away. Lock of the week, Peyton Manning. He's going to go off again. Demaryius Thomas is going to have another big game to add to the big game that he had last week, the career game that he had. I can see Julius Thomas getting involved, Wes Welker, Emmanuel Sanders. The defense with Ware and Miller and Knighton. I think they're all going to get to Geno Smith or Michael Vick, whoever it is. I do believe Geno Smith's going to be the starter because we all know Rex Ryan's got a love affair with the guy. Let's not kid ourselves. So this is an easy one. Denver's going to win this one, and they are going to win it big. Very big. How big? 42-10. Denver absolutely destroys the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this one. Lock of the week. Book it. I'm done. Let's move on to our next game. Baltimore Ravens against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ravens 3.5 point favorites in this one. And, of course, Baltimore, tough loss to the Indianapolis Colts last week. A great game, to say the very least. But it was not enough. They went down 20-13. Tampa Bay, of course, they had the New Orleans Saints on the ropes, literally, but they self-destructed in that game. They choked it away, and New Orleans came back and won it in a surprise 5-star classic, 37-31 in overtime. 2-2 the series history. Tampa Bay won the first 2 meetings, but Baltimore's won the last 2. Last meeting was in Baltimore in 2010. Baltimore won 17-10. Last time they met in Tampa was 2006. Baltimore won 27-0. And Tampa Bay won at home against Baltimore in their very first meeting in 2001. 22-10 was the final there. So I got to go with the Baltimore Ravens here. I just think Joe Flacco's going to have a bounce-back game. Running back by committee, with Bernard Pierce, Justin Forsett, and Lorenzo Taliaferro. Of course, the receiving core, I think Steve Smith's going to bounce back game. After that game he had against Indianapolis last week, he was really non-existent. But I do think he'll bounce back. Torrey Smith, maybe some Owen Daniels as well. The defense with T. Sizzle, they'll get to Mike Glennon and everything else. So I got to go with the Baltimore Ravens in this one. I'm going to say final here, 34-17. Baltimore beats Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium. I don't know. I mean, I could see Tampa giving them some fits, but I just think Baltimore is just too damn good. So even the Ravens in this one, 34-17. That's my final there. So let's move on to our next game. Uh, Final early game. This is going to be the Zonk game of the week, no question about it. The Jacksonville Jaguars against the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee, the favorite, 3.5 to 4 point favorites. I can understand why. I mean, especially after how they had Cleveland on the ropes for the most part. But, it was just, they just absolutely self-destructed. And, I mean, they showed up in the first half, but the second half, they just phoned it in. That's all I can say about that. My guess is Charlie Whitehurst is probably going to be the starter again. I'm not really sure if it's going to be Locker because I know Locker got hurt last week. I'm thinking that it's going to be Whitehurst. With Jacksonville, they'll have Blake Bortles and everything else. This, to me, is going to be the dud of the week. I mean, you got Jacksonville at 0-5, Tennessee at 1-4. I mean, Jacksonville have that. I mean, they hung with Pittsburgh, but they just, they just couldn't get it done. They lost 17-9. And Tennessee, of course, like I said, that collapse against Cleveland. So let's take a look at the all-time history here. I do believe it is Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee leads the series 21-17. Each of the last 5 years, they've split. 2009 they split, 2010 they split, 2011, 2012, and 2013. Last year, both teams won on each other's home field. Jacksonville won in Nashville, and Tennessee won in Jacksonville. So some of the experts are saying that this could be where Jacksonville can actually steal a win here. I kind of see it myself, but to be honest, I just don't. Because I made a point on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I said this. You heard it here first. I said Jacksonville was going to go winless, and I still feel that way. If that to happen, Tennessee has to win this game, and that's why I'm going to go with Tennessee Titans to win this game. I can definitely see Charlie Whitehurst having a breakout game here. The running game, Bishop Sankey, I think he's going to have a nice game. Nate Washington, I think he's going to have a big game on the receiving side. I think the defense will get to Bortles and everything else. So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans in this one. I'm going to say final here, 20-13. Tennessee beats Jacksonville in what I think will be the Zonk game of the week. No question about it. So with that said, let's move on to our late games now. And started off with the San Diego Chargers going up against the Oakland Raiders. Ugh. From what I'm hearing, we're going to get this game on our CBS affiliate. Why, for the life of me, I do not know. But it is what it is. But San Diego is 7 to 7.5 point favorite. This is another one of my locks of the week. This is my number 2 lock of the week. Carolina and Cincinnati is my number 3 lock of the week. This is my number 2 lock of the week. Raiders suck. That's all there is to it. I mean, they were on bye last week. Last time we saw them, they got holiday hand by the Dolphins in London. In San Diego, putting a whooping on the New York Jets, 31-0. So, series history. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe this is their first meeting this year. I don't recall them having met earlier in the season. Yes, I am correct on that. This is the first meeting. Second meeting will be on November 16th. We'll talk about that next month, but that'll be in San Diego. This one's in Oakland. Raiders, though, lead the all-time series 58-48 with 2 ties. They split last year. Both teams winning at home. Oakland winning in Oakland. San Diego winning in San Diego. Since, 2000s, I mean, San Diego was pretty much had a stranglehold on this series. And let's face it, the Raiders are a joke. They just recently fired their coach, Dennis Allen. Of course, Tony Sparano, who turned the Miami Dolphins around in 2008, that miraculous turnaround, that dismal 2007 season. Of course, at Mike Fletcher here, you know how we are. We don't ever talk about 2007, the worst season in Dolphin history when they went 1-15. The Cleo Lemon era. We gave them a hard time on that on the show a few weeks back. We had a lot of fun with that, but it's not going to be a fun afternoon for the Raiders. I'll tell you that right now. That is going to be a bleh game to say the very least. No chance in hell they're going to win this game. No way. Now with how San Diego's been playing. Phillip Rivers, he's going to have another big game. The running game, Brandon Oliver doing a great job against, filling in for Ryan Matthews while he's hurt. And that receiving core, Eddie Royal, Keenan Allen, Antonio Gates, Malcolm Floyd. I just think they're just going to go off. I really do. And that defense, they're going to fluster to that Raider offense, no doubt about it. So this is my number 2 lock of the week. San Diego wins this one. They're going to win this one going away. 41 to 7. The no, hang on. Let me rephrase that. 37 to 13. I think that's the more appropriate final for the San Diego Chargers to beat the Oakland Raiders in Oakland at the Oakland Coliseum. So it's going to be a long afternoon for them, to say the very least. So give me San Diego 37-13. Rivers and company, they're just too damn good right now. So top 3 in the power rankings, by the way, as well. So all right, let's move on to our next late game. It will be the Washington Redskins going up against the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona 3.5-point favorites. Of course, Washington last week lost to the Seattle Seahawks on Monday Night Football. 27-17 was the final there. Arizona, of course, got blown away by Denver, 41-20 in Denver. So this is an easy. This is I'm not going to say this is a major lock, but I'm going to say this is one of my more confident picks of the week. I mean, I got to go with Arizona in this one. Before I do that, Washington may lead the all-time series 74-44 with 2 ties, and I know Washington has won the last 8 consecutive meetings in this series. Arizona hasn't beaten the Redskins since the year 2000, and that was in Arizona, 16-15. So, of course, last time they met in Arizona was in 2005. That was a 17-13 win for Washington. So, I'm sure Washington will hang in there. I'm sure Kirk Cousins will have a good game, and Alfred Morris as well. But with Arizona at home and Arizona coming off that humiliating loss to Denver, I just think they're going to bounce back here. I like them at home. They're just too damn good there. Bruce Arians has done a great job with this team since he took over for them. So I think Drew Stanton will have a solid game. The running game, I think they'll have a good game as well. The receiving core, maybe we'll see Larry Fitzgerald. Maybe we'll see Michael Floyd. And, of course, this rookie phenom, John Brown, who's been doing some great things for them. So I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals in this one. 21-14. That's going to be my final there. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Move on to our next matchup. The Chicago Bears going up against the Atlanta Falcons. According to my book, originally this was supposed to be a 1 o'clock game, but this got bumped down to a late start. Not sure why, but we'll take it anyway. Chicago leads the all-time series 13-12. Last time they met was in Chicago in 2011. Chicago won that 30-12. Last time they met in Atlanta, Atlanta won that game in 2009, 21-14. And last time Chicago won in Atlanta was in the year 2002. 14-13 was the final there. So Atlanta 3-point favorites. Last time we saw Atlanta, they were humiliated by the Minnesota Vikings. Lost 41-28 up at TCF Bank Stadium. Chicago, of course, that tough loss to the Carolina Panthers, 31-24 was the final there. I think this has potential to maybe be a 5-star classic of a game because you got 2 great offenses. I mean, Jay Cutler and Matt Ryan. I both think they're going to have big. I think both of them are going to have really big games here. I really do. And their receiving cores: Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Martellus Bennett for Chicago, and for Atlanta, Roddy White, Julio Jones, Harry Douglas, their tight end Toilolo. I think they'll all have some big games here. The running games with Forte and for Chicago, and of course that 2-headed tandem of Jacquizz Rodgers and Steven Jackson. I think they're going to have big games for Atlanta as well. But at the end of the day, seeing that the game's in Atlanta, considering how damn good Atlanta has been at home since Matt Ryan became the quarterback, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons to win what I think is going to be a 5-star classic. I really do. I'm going to say final here, 38-35, Chicago. I should say Atlanta. I'm sorry. 38-35, Atlanta will win at home against the Chicago Bears what I think could be a 5-star classic of a shootout. I really do. Moving on to our next game, it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle at CenturyLink Field. Seattle a 7.5 to 9-point favorite. Um, I mean, one of the games of the week. There's no question about it. I mean, because Dallas 4-1 start. I mean, they had that really bad game against San Francisco in the opener, but they have really turned it on since then. I mean, they've won 4 games in a row since. I mean, beating Tennessee, and then that big comeback against St. Louis, and then that win, again, and then that holiday hamming of the New Orleans Saints, and then on the Sunday night, and then that big win against the Houston Texans last week. In Seattle, won their opener with Green Bay, and then that tough loss to San Diego, but they've turned it on since. That 5-star classic of a Super Bowl rematch against Denver, winning that, and then of course the big win against Washington on Monday night. So looking at this, Dallas leads the all-time series 9-5. Last time they met was in 2012. That was in Seattle. Seattle won 27-7. Last time Dallas won in Seattle was in 2004. A 43-39 game. That was a 5-star classic, to say the very least. So, huge game here for Dallas. I mean, could you imagine if Dallas actually goes into Washington and somehow wins this game? I mean, that would be unbelievable, to say the very least. But I honestly don't see that happening here because, Seattle's won like 18 of their last 19 or something like that. I know they've only lost one game in like the last 3 years, the last 2 or 3 years. And that was, of course, last year, right around Christmas time against the Arizona Cardinals. So, 7.5 to 9-point favorites. I think that's a little bit too much. I mean, I do agree Seattle should be the favorite, absolutely. But I just don't think 7.5 to 9 is the appropriate spread. I think it should be more like 3 to 4, if I'm being honest, because Dallas is not as bad as people think. I mean, Dallas wins this game. I'm going to say it right now. Dallas wins this game. I mean, believe it or not, I do have Dallas in my top 3 in the power rankings because of their body of work as of late. I mean, Michael Bullock and I, we had them in our top 3 when we did the show last week, but I just don't see them winning in Seattle there. I really don't. I mean, Seattle's just too damn good there. 12th man, Legion of Boom. But I will say this: I think Tony Romo's going to have a solid game. DeMarco Murray, I think he'll have a good game, but I don't think he's going to have a big game. I think he's just going to have an okay game. Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, I think they'll get into the act as well. This game will be on our Fox affiliate, by the way, following the New England Buffalo game, just to let you know, for all you local fans out there. Russell Wilson, I think he's going to have a big game. Marshawn Lynch, I think he's going to do well. Percy Harvin, I think the defense is definitely going to, they're definitely going to get to Tony Romo, and they'll probably contain DeMarco Murray. But the matchup definitely to keep an eye on: Richard Sherman and Dez Bryant. I just think Sherman's going to win that matchup, to be quite honest. So with that said, I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks to win this game. I will say, let's go 24-17. Seattle beats Dallas in CenturyLink Field and snaps Dallas's 4-game winning streak. I mean, it would be a huge deal if Dallas won that game. If Dallas were to win that game, I would go on the record and say Dallas is for real this year. But I just don't see it. Just give me Seattle on this one, 24-17. That's all I can say about that. And now we move on to what I will consider the game of the week. Sunday Night Football, the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Huge game in the NFC East. Philadelphia, a 2.5 to 3-point favorite. New York Giants have won 3 games in a row. Of course, after that horrific start, they started 0-2, those bad losses to Detroit and Arizona. But since then, they beat Houston. And they had that holiday hamming of Washington on the Thursday night. And then another big win against the Atlanta Falcons. And that's right. I forgot Atlanta played the Giants last week. They weren't on bye. They played the Giants. And the Giants won that game 30-20. But series history, Giants lead the series 82-74 with 2 ties. They split each of the last 2 years. The Eagles, no, make it the last 3 years. Giants and Eagles have each split. Uh, Going by last year, both teams winning on each other's home field. Philadelphia won in New York, and the Giants won in Philadelphia. So tough one to call, to be honest with you. Philly 4-1, but all those wins have been very close and very lucky. Some of them have. I mean, you remember they had to come back from 17 down to beat Jacksonville in the opener, and they also had some close wins as well against some other opponents, including last week. I'll get to that in just a moment. Let's see what we have here. Then, of course, they had that comeback win against Indianapolis, and then they survived a five-star classic for the Washington Redskins, and then they had a tough loss in San Francisco, and then last week against St. Louis, they nearly gagged it. I mean, they only won 34-28. They were up 34-7. Had that score held, I would have put Philly in my top 5 in the power rankings. But I'm sorry, I can't do that. I mean, because you almost let St. Louis come back and steal. That would have been humiliating. But I say it's a very tough game because Philly is 4-1. Like I said, they're doing very well. I mean, Nick Foles having a good year. Sean McCoy, I think they'll both have big games. The receiving cores, Jeremy Maclin, Jordan Matthews, Riley Cooper, Zach Ertz. I think the defense will definitely get some action. Trent Cole. And then, of course, on the Giants side, Eli Manning has been a different quarterback since those first 2 games against Detroit and Arizona. I mean, he has been in a world of his own, playing his best football at the right time. Running game, I think we'll see some of that. Maybe some Victor Cruz, some Ruben Randall. Very tough game to call. But at the end of the day, just bear with me for 1 minute. I'm just going to check my just want to see. I'm trying to see who I had in our Pigskin Pick'em, our Strictly Sports Pigskin Pick'em on ESPN.com, which I'm in with Michael Fletcher, Michael Bullock, and 2 of our super fans, Matt Ward and Eric Carrier. Very close at that, to say the very least. Only 4 games separate first and 5th place. I mean, that is how extremely competitive we are this year. So, checking my notes here. Even though I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants were to win, there's just something about Philadelphia this year that, even though the wins have been shaky, they're still 4-1. They're still tied with Dallas in the NFC East, but there's just something about Philadelphia. I mean, they're just too good. So I'm going to take a chance here, and I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. What I think has the potential to be another 5-star classic here. I'm going to say final here is going to be 34-31. Philadelphia will beat the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football, and what should be one hell of a game on NBC. Final game, Monday Night Football, San Francisco 49ers, St. Louis Rams. This game will be in St. Louis, ESPN, of course. Monday Night Football, you know how that goes. Pretty sure the 49ers lead the all-time series in this one. Checking the history. Actually, no, I'm actually wrong on that. St. Louis leads the all-time series, 63-62 with 3 ties. However, San Francisco has won San Francisco swept last year, winning big in St. Louis, 35-11, and then 23-13 in San Francisco. This game in the Edward Jones Dome, and last time the Rams beat the Niners at home was just 2012. They won 16-13 in overtime. This one's a little bit tough to call, I'll be honest. I mean, because, St. Louis, I mean, they're actually not as bad as people think. I mean, especially Austin Davis. I mean, this Austin Davis kid has really taken the fantasy world by storm. He's become, one of the newest fantasy darlings out there. And, he's been having some really, really big games, including last week against Philadelphia. He had a huge game, but it was just to no avail. But But at the end of the day, it's just all about San Francisco to me. I mean, 49ers, you know, like I said, they had that great win against Dallas, and then those two bad losses to Chicago and Arizona, and then they have bounced back, however, in a big way. Those two big wins against Philadelphia and Kansas City at Levi's Stadium. So I just think Colin Kaepernick's going to have a big game. Um, Frank Gore, I think he'll have a big game. Stephen Core, Anquan Bolden. Not sure about Vernon Davis's status. I don't know if he'll be available. We'll see how he goes. If he's available, then I definitely like their chances. Stevie Johnson doing some things down there as well, making himself at home in San Francisco after all those years in Buffalo. So the defense, I think they'll get to Austin Davis a little bit, fluster him a little bit, even though I do think Davis will have a solid game and the running game with Stacy and them. But I just think San Francisco is too good. I think San Fran's the better team, in all honesty. So I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers in this one. I'm going to say the final will be, let's go 30. I'm going to go 35-24. San Francisco beats St. Louis in the Edward Jones Dome, in what should be, a solid Monday night game to say the very least. So that does it for my predictions. Now I'm going to move on to my power rankings for this week. There are a couple of ties in there. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about that. So, I'm going to start it off at number 10. I have a tie at number 10. This is where I'm going to have the New England Patriots and the New York Giants. They're my co-number 10s this week. Before I get into that, I just want to, quickly say honorable mention. I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers as my honorable mention for this week. Just wanted to get that off my chest. The duds of the week, no question about it, the Detroit Lions, the Houston Texans, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are my duds of the week. I definitely have them all out, but with some impressive performances this week, over the next couple of weeks, maybe they'll be back in, but not this week. So let's start it off with my number 10, co-number 10s, New England Patriots and the New York Giants. I have New England in there because of what they did against the Cincinnati Bengals last week. I mean, absolutely holiday hammed them, 43-17. That was the final on Sunday Night Football. New England put up 505 yards of offense. They forced 3 Cincinnati turnovers. They sacked Andy Dalton once. And Tom Brady, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Stephen Ridley, 113 yards rushing and a touchdown. And then Rob Gronkowski, 100 yards and a touchdown. Tim Wright, 85 yards and a touchdown. The tight end has definitely stepped up. I definitely think Brady and Gronk will have some big games against Buffalo on Sunday, which is why I think they'll win. Gostkowski, perfect kicking the ball. And then the one sack was Chris Jones. He had the sack of Andy Dalton. But, they forced 3 turnovers. I do believe, let me see what they were. No interception. I think they were all fumbles. Yeah, they were all fumbles. So, and New England recovered all of them. So, big win for New England. I mean, like I said, 505 yards of offense. They had no turnovers. Held the ball for almost 39 minutes, while as Cincinnati only held it for 21 minutes. Definitely played a role in that. So, very big win for New England, to say the very least. So, definitely back in the power rankings and a win against my Buffalo Bills tomorrow, which I think they're going to. That's all I can say about that. So give me New England as my first number 10. Second number 10, I got to go with the New York Giants. I mean, I feel they deserve to be in the power rankings. They've won 3 games in a row. I've just been very impressed with their body of work. I mean, the beatdown of Houston, the beatdown of Washington, and then the win against the Atlanta Falcons. 30-20 was the final there. 317 yards of offense. Yes, they committed 2 turnovers, but they forced 1 Atlanta turnover. And they also sacked Matt Ryan once, but it was the offense that stepped up. Eli Manning, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in the win. Andre Williams, the running back out of Boston College, 65 yards and a touchdown. I think we'll see some of him tomorrow, as well as Rashad Jennings. Receiving, Odell Beckham Jr. and Ruben Randall had receiving touchdowns. Preston Parker had a solid game. Victor Cruz was held a bit in check, but I think he'll bounce back. Josh Brown was perfect on the kicking side, and on the defensive side, it was Jonathan Hankins who had the sack of Matt Ryan. But point is, they won 3 games in a row, all by double digits, and you know, I've just been so impressed with their body of work, and I felt that they honestly deserve to be in the power rankings, whether you like it or not. So, number 10s, New England Patriots, and the New York Giants. Moving on to number 9, this is where I have the San Francisco 49ers. Um, two-game winning streak for them. They had another close win. This one against the Kansas City Chiefs and their former quarterback Alex Smith. They won that game 22-17. Just bear with me here while I pull up the notes from this game. 357 yards of offense, no turnovers, so that's good. They forced one Kansas City turnover, but they had no sacks. But it wasn't about the defense; it was about the O. In this case, Colin Kaepernick 201 yards and a touchdown in the win. Frank Gore 107 yards rushing. And on the receiving side, Brandon Lloyd 76 yards receiving, but it was Stevie Johnson who had the one receiving touchdown. And Phil Dawson was perfect on the kicking side. He had a perfect day kicking the ball. And even though Colin Kaepernick was sacked 3 times, they still found a way to get it done. So yeah, bringing the Kansas City Chiefs back down to earth. I mean, after they started 0-2, losses to Tennessee and Denver, but those big wins. Oh, excuse me about that. Sorry about that. Little video pop up there, but San Fran. I mean, and then Kansas City had those impressive wins against Miami and the New England Patriots on the Monday nights. So really nothing left for me to say. I mean, just San Francisco, had that big win against Philadelphia the week before, and then last week the win against Kansas City. They go up against St. Louis Monday night. I think they'll win that. So give me the San Francisco 49ers at number 9 in my power rankings. I have a tie at number 8. This is my only other tie. Number 8's, ironically, they were the last 2 unbeaten teams in the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals and the Cincinnati Bengals are my number 8s this week. Punishing both teams big time after dreadful performances by both teams. Arizona, of course, losing to the Denver Broncos 41-20. I mean, it was not good at all. We'll have more on Denver because I got Denver in the power rankings as well. They only put up 215 yards of offense. Pathetic. And yes, they did force 2 Denver turnovers. Yes. And yes, they also sacked Peyton Manning 3 times. That's good. But 215 yards, bad. That's all there is to it. And Drew Stanton, only 118 yards passing. Yeah, that'll get it done. Andre Ellington, yes, he had a rushing touchdown, but only 32 yards. And also, Ellington did have a good day on the receiving side, 112 yards and a touchdown. That's the only good thing that he did. But just not a good day all around for Arizona. Their kicker was perfect, yes. And Frosty Rucker had the sack of Peyton Manning. I stand corrected. It was 1 sack. That's right. It was 1 sack. Drew Stanton was sacked 3 times, and actually he was sacked once. Logan Thomas, who had to come in and replace him because he got hurt, he had 2. He was sacked twice. So we'll get more into that with Denver, but a dismal performance by the Arizona Cardinals, to say the very least. So they're my first number 8. Second number 8, the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm punishing them big time. I mean, they were the number 1 team in the power rankings the last 2 weeks, one of which because of a bye. But I thought last week was their bye week because they didn't even show up against New England last week in Foxborough. I mean, they were just absolutely horrific. Let's get their numbers up. Put up 320 yards of offense, but they allowed 505 to New England. They committed 3 turnovers. Andy Dalton was sacked once, but they fumbled the ball 3 times. Dalton had 204 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is good. Jason Campbell got some action, was 3 of 5 for 45. Bernard had 62 yards rushing. That was to lead the rushing game. AJ Green had 81 yards and a touchdown. Mohamed Sanu, 70 yards and a touchdown. That's the good. One of the few positives. They also had a sack of Tom Brady. That sack was by, let me get it, Robert Geathers. Robert Geathers had the sack of Tom Brady, but just an all-around horrific performance by the Cincinnati Bengals. And I know Derek Ferreira still had him at number as a top 5 team in his power rankings, but to be quite honest, after a performance like that, you don't deserve to be in the top 5. I don't care how good you are. So I had to punish them big time. Same with the Arizona Cardinals. So with that said, number 8, Arizona Cardinals, Cincinnati Bengals. That's it for ties. There's no more ties the rest of the way. Number 7, this is where I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I would have had them higher, but thing is, they just barely, and I mean barely, by the skin of their teeth, got by the St. Louis Rams. I mean, a game that they should have won rather convincingly, if I'm being quite honest with you. But nonetheless, they still managed to get the win. They bounced back from that tough loss against San Francisco the week before. They put up 352 yards, but they allowed St. Louis to get 466 yards of offense. They committed 3 turnovers, but they did, however, force 3 St. Louis turnovers. They also sacked Austin Davis 4 times. Nick Foles was not sacked, so that was good. Nick Foles did get outplayed by Austin Davis, but they still got the win. Foles had 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. LaShawn McCoy, 81 yards rushing to lead the way there. Jeremy Maclin, a receiving touchdown, 76 yards. Riley Cooper had a receiving touchdown as well, 33 yards there. Kicker was perfect in Parkey. 4 sacks, 2 of them by Connor Barwin, the other 2 by Vinny Curry, and of course Trent Cole, the heart and soul of that defense from all those great Philly teams in the early years. So, yeah, a little more decisive, and then maybe I would have had them perhaps on the verge of top 5. But to be honest, I don't think they deserve to be there. They deserve to be in the rankings, absolutely. They're 4-1 and tied for first in the NFC East with Dallas, but just not good enough for me. So with that said, number 7 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Moving on to my number 6, this is where I have the Green Bay Packers at number 6. Last time we saw them, they holiday hammed the Minnesota Vikings on that Thursday night game at home. 42-10 was the final there. I mean, ever since that horrific loss to Detroit, that 19-7 loss, they've outscored their last 2 opponents, Chicago and Minnesota, by a count of 80-27. I mean, very impressive to say the very least. I mean, let's look at their numbers. 320 yards of offense. Yeah, they committed a turnover, and Aaron Rodgers was sacked twice, but here's the thing. They only allowed 299 yards to Minnesota, forced 3 turnovers, and they also sacked Christian Ponder 6 times. And, Aaron Rodgers, 156 yards, 3 touchdowns, that's it. Matt Flynn got some garbage time, but he threw an interception. That's the only criticism I have. Eddie Lacy, 105 yards, rushing with 2 scores. Jordy Nelson, 66 yards, receiving and a touchdown. Randall Cobb had a receiving touchdown as well, 34 yards. Mason Crosby just had to kick 6 PATs. That's it. On the sacks, it was Nick Perry with 2, Letroy, Dion, and Mike Daniels with 1.5 apiece. A.J. Hawk and Julius Peppers each had a half. But all around, it was an all-around impressive performance by Green Bay. 3-2 on the year. And, of course, they go up against Miami tomorrow. I think they'll win that. So we'll see what happens with that. So I just need to see a little bit more from them. I mean, the other teams I have ahead of them in the power rankings, I think their bodies of work have been just a little bit better, to be quite honest. So with that said, number 5, it is the Indianapolis. It is the Green Bay Packers at number 6, I should say. My number 5, this is where I have the Indianapolis Colts. Um, Not counting what they did against the Houston Texans because these are retroactive to the week before. Um, I mean, they before that they've won 4 games in a row since the 0-2 start. Those tough losses to Denver and Philly, but since then, Holiday Ham Jacksonville, Holiday Ham Tennessee, got by Baltimore. I had them in my top 3 last week, but I'm punishing them just a little bit because they only managed a 20-13 win. They just barely got by the Ravens and almost lost that game to them. But 432 yards of offense. They committed 4 turnovers. Andrew Luck was sacked once. But on the other side, they forced 3 Baltimore turnovers, sacked Joe Flacco 4 times. And, Andrew Luck continues to shine. 312 yards. He threw a touchdown, but had 2 interceptions. Ahmad Bradshaw, 68 yards rushing. T.Y. Hilton, 90 yards receiving to lead the way. Dwayne Allen had the receiving touchdown on that one. Vinatieri was perfect on the kicking side. And 4 sacks on the defensive side. Corey Redding, Sergio Brown had 1 apiece, and Bjorn Werner had 2. I'll mention the Houston game next week when we do our power rankings. They'll definitely be in there, no question about it. They'll probably still be in the top 5 because of what they did on Thursday night. That competitive Thursday night game, first competitive Thursday night game this season after all those weeks of duds and blowouts. So I was very pleased about that. So number 5 in my power rankings, it is the Indianapolis Colts. Moving on to number 4, this is where I have the Denver Broncos. Back in the top 5, of course. They had that loss to Seattle a couple weeks ago, but they bounced back in a big way with wins, with that win against Arizona. 41-20 was the final there. We talked about this game earlier, but we're talking about Denver's side now. 568 yards of offense. The only criticism, they committed 2 turnovers, and Peyton Manning was sacked once, but they held Arizona to only 215 yards of offense. They sacked the quarterbacks 3 times, 1 sack on Drew Stanton, the other 2 on Logan Thomas, who filled in for Drew Stanton after Stanton got hurt. Peyton Manning, 479 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in the win. Running game was non-existent, although they got a rushing touchdown from Juwan Thompson. But on the receiving side, Demaryius Thomas, 226 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sanders had 101 yards receiving. The other Thomas, Julius, he had the other 2 touchdowns with 66 yards receiving. McManus, 5 for 5 on PATs, but he missed a field goal. That's the only downside there. But 3 sacks, 2 sacks for Von Miller, and half a sack apiece for DeMarcus Ware and Malik Jackson. So Denver definitely back in the top 5 where they belong in the power rankings, to say the very least. But I need to see a little more from them. So they go up against the Jets tomorrow. I think they're going to have another big game there. I think they're going to win that one easily, and that's also my LOTW, my lock of the week, to say the very least. So number 4, it is the Denver Broncos. Moving on to number 3, this is where I have your reigning and defending Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks. What can we say? A solid victory against the Washington Redskins, coming off a bye. Back in the top 3 where they belong. They had that tough loss to San Diego some time ago, but they bounced back since then. Let's look at their notes from the Washington game. 403 yards of offense they put up. No turnovers, which is good. They held Washington to 307 yards of offense. They didn't commit any turnovers. The only downside is that Russell Wilson was sacked 3 times, but they did sack RG3 once, so that was good. Russell Wilson, 201 yards and 2 scores in the win. And he also had 122 yards rushing and a touchdown, so a big game for Russell Wilson, to say the very least. Marshawn Lynch had the receiving touchdown, along with Jermaine Kearse. And Hauschka was perfect kicking the ball. And on the defensive side, it was Bobby Wagner, who had the lone sack of Robert Griffin III. But the body of work is definitely starting to play like your Super Bowl champs, as they should be. They go up against Dallas, huge game tomorrow, which I think they'll win because they're at home and they hardly ever lose at CenturyLink Field with that 12 man. So, and I don't see that happening anytime soon, and they're a favorite. They deserve to be the favorite, but they don't deserve to really be a touchdown favorite. I think it should be more like 3 to 4. If I'm being honest, because Dallas is not that bad as people think. So with that said, number 3, it is the Seattle Seahawks. My number 2, this may surprise some people, but remember, Michael Bullock and I, we had this team in our number 2 last week. Well, actually, Michael Bullock had him as his co-number 1, but I put him at number 2 because I wasn't really that impressed yet. But number 2, this is where I have the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, 4-1. I mean, since that bad loss to San Francisco, I mean, Holiday Ham, Tennessee, they had that big comeback against St. Louis. Holiday Ham, New Orleans, and they beat a very good Houston Texan team. 20-17 was the final there. 456 yards of offense. Yes, they committed 3 turnovers. And yeah, Tony Romo was sacked once, but that was really the only criticism. I mean, they forced 1 Houston turnover. There were no sacks, but Tony Romo, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. DeMarco Murray, 136 yards rushing. I mean, he's been doing some unbelievable things this year. Overcame a 157-yard, 2-touchdown rushing performance by Arian Foster. On the receiving side, Des Bryant and Terrence Williams each had receiving touchdowns. Dan Bailey missed only 1 field goal, but he was fine other than that. And, of course, no sacks. But, you know, I have just been so impressed with this team's body of work. They've won 4 games in a row. That's one of the main reasons why I have them at number 2. And they're also 4-1. They're actually tied for first in their division. If they beat Seattle tomorrow, big if, but if they do, they'll definitely stay in that top 3. No question about that. So with that said, number 2, it is the Dallas Cowboys. Number 1, no ifs, ands, or buts about this one. This is a no-brainer. First time ever this team's been number 1 in the power rankings. It is the San Diego Superchargers. I mean, you know, they had that bad loss to Zona, but since then, 4 wins in a row against Seattle, Buffalo, Jacksonville, and then, of course, what they did against the Jets last week. Just, wow. That's all I can say. 439 yards of offense. Yes, they committed a turnover. And yeah, Phillip Rivers was sacked 3 times. That's the only criticism. But other than that, they held the Jets to only 151 yards of offense, forced 2 turnovers. They sacked Geno Smith twice and allowed the Jets to have the ball for only 21 minutes and 6 seconds while they had it for 38 minutes and 54 seconds. Actually, it was Michael Vick who was sacked twice, not Geno Smith. But Vick and Smith were both terrible against him. Phillip Rivers, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Brandon Oliver, an admirable job of filling in for Ryan Matthews, 114 yards and a touchdown there. And then Brandon Oliver also had a receiving touchdown. And, of course, my guy, Antonio Gates, 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Novak was perfect kicking the ball both ways. And Donald Butler and Sean Lissamore had the sacks of Michael Vick in that win against the Jets. They go up against the Oakland Raiders tomorrow. That's going to be another easy win for them. I have no question about that. So, and if that's the case, then they will most likely stay number 1 when we do our power rankings next week. So, all right, number 1, San Diego Chargers. I always like to say the San Diego Superchargers, like the old school song from back in the day. So, all right, that's going to do it for me on this video here. I hope you all enjoyed, and I thank you all for tuning in. We do apologize once again for having no show tonight. I mean, it's a damn shame, but you know, it is what it is. You know, Derek Ferrera and Michael Bullock have plans of their own. Michael Fletcher had to work commitments. And but Derek, like I said, Derek did a podcast of his own. You can check that out. And of course, I'm going to have this uploaded on the Strictly Sports Twitter feed once it becomes available, and also posted on my Facebook as well, so you all can tune in. So yeah, that's going to do it here. Of course, I'm not going to do the shout-outs because we didn't have a show. So if we had a show, I would have done my shout-outs, but I'm going to save my shout-outs for next week if we do them. So, of course, future content. Of course, I'll be back with you all Monday night for the Wrestling Forum. I will not be flying solo this time. I'm going to be joined by my 2 esteemed colleagues, the Cerebral Viper, Michael Fletcher, and the Phenom, Michael Bullock. Derek Ferrera, however, will not be with us as he's got his Monday Night Football commitments, as he is the social media ambassador for that. And then Friday night, College Football Friday. Hopefully, we'll have a show there. Hopefully, we'll have Derek back on for that. And then hopefully, we'll have a Strictly Sports NFL Saturday next Saturday night. Hopefully, we'll have Michael Bullock, and hopefully, we'll have Derek. Maybe we'll have Fletch. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that. So that's going to do it for this. So thank you all so much for tuning in. So until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, ridiculously over anything closing, you know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up 4 style. Enjoy the NFL football tomorrow. And until Monday night for the Wrestling Forum, you've been watching this, I guess you could call it, abbreviated edition of Strictly Sports NFL Saturday, right here on the Tunnel 25 on YouTube.com. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other and enjoy the NFL football tomorrow. Bye for now, my friends. See you Monday night for the Wrestling Forum.